Commander Jiwon stood in the observation deck of Haven Station, watching the ships arrive through the viewport. 3 massive vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their hulls gleaming under the distant sun. She smiled, thinking this was another routine diplomatic visit. The Galactic Council often sent delegations to Haven Station. It was humanity's bridge to the stars, a place where 12,000 humans lived and worked to build relationships with alien species. Ambassador Hyun-woo joined her at the window. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice carried hope. Beautiful ships, aren't they? The Drask really know how to build them. He adjusted his formal robes, prepared to greet their visitors. This could be the meeting where they finally approve our request for advanced medical technology. Think of how many lives we could save. Jiwon nodded, but something felt wrong. Her military instincts whispered warnings. Sir, those ships aren't transmitting the usual diplomatic codes, and they're positioning themselves in attack formation. Hyun-woo frowned. Attack formation? Jiwon, we've been at peace with the Council for 30 years. You're being paranoid. Before she could respond, the station's communication system crackled to life. A cold, reptilian voice filled the speakers. Attention, Haven Station. You have been designated a threat to galactic stability. Prepare for corrective measures. Jiwon's blood turned to ice. Corrective measures? What does that mean? She got her answer seconds later. Bright lances of energy erupted from the Council ships, slamming into Haven Station's outer ring. Explosions ripped through the civilian quarters. Alarms screamed throughout the station. People started running, screaming, not understanding what was happening. Battle stations! Jiwon shouted into her communicator. This is not a drill! We are under attack! But Haven Station was not a military base. It had minimal defenses, just enough to stop asteroids and space debris. Against 3 Council warships, it was helpless. The weapons fire continued, methodical and precise. They were targeting life support systems, power generators, and escape pod bays. Dr. Yoonji burst into the observation deck, her face pale with terror. They're boarding us. Council soldiers are coming through the docking ports. They're killing everyone. Ambassador Hyun-woo grabbed his communicator with shaking hands. This is Ambassador Hyun-woo to all Council channels. We are a diplomatic station. We have families here. Children, please, stop this attack. The only response was more weapons fire. In the hydroponics bay, where families grew food and children played among the plants, Council soldiers appeared. They were tall, reptilian creatures with scales that gleamed like armor. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. A mother named Sora tried to shield her 2 children behind a row of tomato plants. A soldier saw them and fired without hesitation. All 3 fell. Captain Min Seok was aboard his frigate, the Indomitable, docked at Haven Station's military port. When the attack began, he immediately ordered his crew to prepare for emergency departure. Get everyone you can aboard! Move! Move! People flooded toward the ship, desperate to escape. Min-seok's crew pulled them through the airlock as fast as possible. Engineers, scientists, families with crying babies. Among them was a young woman named Dayun, her clothes covered in blood that wasn't her own. She had watched her parents die in the recreation center when Council soldiers threw grenades into the crowd. Ambassador Hyun-woo knew he was going to die. He could hear the gunfire getting closer to the command center. But he had one final duty. With shaking hands, he activated the emergency broadcast system and pointed a camera at the viewport. Through it, everyone could see the hydroponics bay. Council soldiers were moving through the green space, executing anyone they found. They were not taking prisoners. They were not showing mercy. They were simply killing every human they encountered. Civilians on their knees, begging for their lives, were shot in the head. Medical staff trying to help the wounded were gunned down. Children hiding in the plants were dragged out and murdered. This is Ambassador Hyun-woo. he said into the camera, his voice breaking. To anyone receiving this transmission, the Galactic Council is massacring Haven Station. This is not an accident. This is not a misunderstanding. They came here to kill us all. 12,000 people, scientists, families, children. Remember what you are seeing. Remember what they did to us. The door behind him exploded inward. Council soldiers entered the command center. Hyunwoo kept the camera running, kept broadcasting, even as they raised their weapons. His last words were, "Tell Earth, tell them all. Tell them we died believing in peace." But the Council gave us only... The transmission cut off. Captain Minsok's frigate tore away from Haven Station with 47 survivors crammed into spaces meant for 30 crew members. The station was burning behind them, atmosphere venting into space like blood from a wound. Escape pods that managed to launch were being destroyed by the Council ships. They were making sure there were no survivors. "Captain, they're targeting us!" his pilot shouted. "Evasive maneuvers! Get us to the jump point!" Energy beams slashed past them. The Indomitable's shields flared and weakened. An explosion rocked the ship, killing 2 crew members instantly. But Minsok's pilot was skilled, dodging and weaving through the weapons fire. They reached the minimum safe distance and activated the faster-than-light drive. As the ship jumped away, Daeun looked back through a porthole. Haven Station was breaking apart, its lights going dark one by one. Somewhere in that dying structure were her parents, her friends, her entire world. She pressed her hand against the cold glass and made a silent promise. She would survive. She would make sure everyone knew what happened here. And somehow, some way, the Council would pay for every drop of human blood they spilled. The Indomitable raced toward Earth, carrying the truth and the survivors. Behind them, the Council ships finished their work. Haven Station, humanity's hope for peace among the stars, became a tomb for 12,000 souls. The Council transmitted a message to Earth, claiming that terrorists had seized the station and forced them to intervene. They expressed deep regret for the unavoidable casualties. It was a lie. Ambassador Hyunwoo's final transmission had already reached Earth. Every human who watched it saw the truth. They saw unarmed people executed. They saw children murdered. They saw the Council's true face. The Council believed humanity would be frightened by this show of force. They believed humans would submit, would accept the Council's dominance, would know their place in the galactic order. They sent an ultimatum demanding Earth accept their version of events or face similar correction. They had made a terrible mistake. They had forgotten to learn about human history. They did not know about Earth's countless wars, the genocides, the nuclear weapons, the capacity for violence that humanity had refined over thousands of years. They saw humans as soft, peaceful, weak. They were about to learn the truth. When you corner a peaceful species and force them to choose between submission and war, you discover what they truly are. And humanity, when pushed to that choice, had only ever chosen one path. The message from the Indomitable reached Earth. The transmission from Ambassador Hyunwoo played on every screen across the planet and all the colonies. Humanity watched their people die. They saw the children fall. They heard the ambassador's final words. And in that moment, something ancient and terrible awakened in the human species. Something that had been sleeping beneath 30 years of peaceful diplomacy. Something that the Council should have feared. The war was about to begin. President Taehyun sat in the Emergency Command Center deep beneath Geneva, watching Ambassador Hyunwoo's final transmission for the 20th time. Each viewing made his hands shake with a different emotion. First shock, then grief, then something darker. Something that scared him because it felt so natural, so right. Around the table sat the most powerful people in human space. Fleet Admiral Junho, a sharp-eyed woman who had spent her entire career preparing for a war she hoped would never come. Director Sora of Military Intelligence, a man whose job was secrets and shadows. The governors of Mars, Luna, and the 12 colony worlds. Representatives from the corporations that built humanity's ships and stations. They all watched the transmission end. They all saw Ambassador Hyunwoo die mid-sentence. They all sat in silence for a long moment. 12,000 people, someone finally said. They killed 12,000 people. Fleet Admiral Junho stood up. The Council has demanded we accept their story about terrorists. They want us to pretend our people deserve to die. They're threatening more attacks if we don't comply. She paused, her voice hardening. They believe we'll submit because we're outnumbered. They have 3 million warships across the galaxy. We have 8,000. They think we're weak. Are we? Asked the Mars governor, a young woman named Ji-yeon. Can we actually fight them? Director Sora smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Can we fight them? Governor, we've been preparing for this since the day we met the Council. Let me show you something. The lights dimmed and a holographic display filled the room. It showed the solar system, but not as the Council knew it. Red dots appeared everywhere, hundreds of them, thousands of them. Every research station we've built in the last 30 years, Sora said. They're weapons platforms. Every mining facility on every asteroid. They're fortresses with enough firepower to destroy a fleet. Every commercial cargo ship in our registry. They can be converted to warships in less than 4 hours. The display zoomed to Mars. Beneath the civilian cities, enormous underground complexes appeared. We've been building a military infrastructure in secret. The Council thinks we have 8,000 ships. We actually have 40,000 hidden in hollowed-out asteroids and underground bases. They think our technology is primitive. We've been stealing and reverse engineering their systems for 3 decades. Junho took over the presentation. We have weapons the Council has never seen. AI-controlled drone swarms that can overwhelm their defenses. Kinetic projectiles that can crack planets. Stealth ships they cannot detect. Biological weapons tailored to each Council species. We've been preparing for the day they showed their true face. President Tae-hyun listened to all of this with growing horror and relief. Horror at what humanity had become in secret. Relief that they had the means to respond. Why didn't I know about this? Why wasn't I briefed? Because, sir, we needed you to genuinely believe in peace, Sora said quietly. We needed the Council to believe it too. Humanity's diplomatic efforts were real. Our desire for coexistence was sincere, but we learned our history's lessons. We learned that hoping for peace while preparing for war is the only way to survive. On the screen, files opened one by one. Project Prometheus, the drone swarms. Project Reaper, the kinetic weapons. Project Ghost, the stealth fleet. Project Pandora, the biological warfare division. Each one was fully operational, fully staffed, fully ready to deploy. Every human knows our history, Junho continued. Every child learns about World War II, about the nuclear bombs, about genocide and total war. When we joined the Council, we made a promise to ourselves. Never again would we be caught unprepared. Never again would we let another species dictate our survival. Ji-yeon, the Mars governor, looked at the display with tears in her eyes. So we can fight back. We can make them pay for Haven Station. We can do more than that, Sora said coldly. We can destroy them, completely. The Council has given us justification for total war. Under galactic law, Haven Station was an act of genocide. We have the right to respond with equivalent force. President Tae-hyun stood and walked to the window. Outside, even through the reinforced walls, he could feel the anger of humanity. Protests filled every city. People were volunteering for military service by the millions. The civilian population was screaming for revenge. I need to speak to the people, he said. They need to understand what we're about to do. 6 hours later, President Taehyun's face appeared on every screen across human space. 15 billion people stopped what they were doing to listen. In the refugee centers where survivors from Haven Station were being treated, Daeun watched with red eyes and clenched fists. "My fellow humans," Taehyun began, "you have all seen what the Galactic Council did to Haven Station. You know 12,000 of our brothers and sisters, our children, our parents, our friends were murdered in cold blood. The Council has demanded we accept their lies and submit to their authority. I stand before you today to tell you our response." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "For 30 years, we have tried to be good members of the galactic community. We believed in cooperation, in peace, in building a better future together. We were sincere in this belief. But we also remembered our history. We remembered that hoping for the best while preparing for the worst is wisdom, not paranoia." The camera zoomed closer to his face. "The Council believes we are weak. They believe we will surrender because they outnumber us. They have forgotten something important about humanity. We are the species that survived ice ages and plagues. We are the species that split the atom and touched the stars. We are the species that has fought thousands of wars and learned from every single one." His voice grew harder. "The Council shed human blood. They killed our children. They murdered unarmed civilians. They have shown us who they truly are. And now, we will show them who we are." In military bases across Earth and the colonies, soldiers stood at attention, listening to their president declare war. Minho was among them, a civilian programmer who had enlisted the day Haven Station fell. His sister had been a botanist in the hydroponics bay. He would never see her again. "We will not submit," Taehyun continued. "We will not forgive. We will not forget. The Galactic Council wanted to see what happens when you threaten humanity. They are about to learn. We are activating our full military capability. We are mobilizing every resource. We are preparing for total war." He leaned forward, and his next words would echo through history. "To the Council, I say this. You had 30 years to learn about humanity. You never bothered. You never studied our history. You never asked why a species barely 300 years into space travel could advance so quickly. You assumed we were lucky or gifted. The truth is simpler. We learned. We prepared. We remembered that the universe is not safe, and peace is only possible when you have the strength to defend it." Director Sora watched the speech from the command center, knowing that his projects were about to become reality. 40,000 hidden warships were powering up. Weapons platforms were arming. Soldiers were boarding transports. Humanity was transforming from a peaceful civilization into a war machine. "You wanted to prune us," Taehyun said. "You wanted to keep us weak and controllable. Instead, you have awakened something you should have feared. You have united humanity in a way we have never been united before. Every human, regardless of nation or world or belief, now has one common purpose, making you regret the day you decided we were weak." Fleet Admiral Junho began issuing orders. The Ghost Fleet undocked from their hidden bases, their stealth systems making them invisible to Council sensors. The Reaper satellites moved into attack positions. The Prometheus drones activated their war protocols. In biological warfare labs, scientists who had hoped never to use their creations began final preparations. "This is not a war of conquest," Taehyun continued. "This is not a war of ideology. This is a war of survival and justice. You came to our home and killed our people. You gave us no choice but to respond. And humanity, when given no choice, becomes something terrible." Minho stood in formation with thousands of other new recruits. Most of them were civilians like him, people who had never held a weapon before. But they learned quickly. Humanity had been teaching warfare for thousands of years. It was in their blood, in their history, in their very nature. To those Council species who did not participate in the Haven Station massacre, Taehyun said, his voice softening slightly. "We offer neutrality. Stand aside. Do not help those who killed our children. If you do, you will share their fate." Daeun watched the speech from her hospital bed, her body still healing from injuries sustained during the escape. She had already volunteered to return to duty. The doctors said she needed rest. She told them she would rest when every council member responsible for Haven Station was dead. President Tae-hyun reached his conclusion. "The council asked us to submit or face destruction. I stand here today to give them our answer. We choose war. We choose resistance. We choose to show them what humanity becomes when you take away the choice for peace. They signed their own death warrant the day they shed human blood. Now we will deliver it." The broadcast ended. For a moment, silence filled human space. Then, from Earth to the furthest colony, people began to move. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Factories shifted to war production. Scientists abandoned civilian projects to work on weapons. Children too young to fight prepared to support the war effort in any way they could. The council had expected fear and submission. Instead, they had awakened something ancient in humanity. Something that remembered how to wage total war. Something that knew how to kill efficiently and without mercy. Fleet Admiral Junho watched her boards light up green as ship after ship reported ready for combat. 40,000 warships, thousands of weapons platforms, millions of drones, biological weapons that could wipe out entire species, and most importantly, soldiers who had nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. "All forces report ready," she told President Tae-hyun. He nodded slowly, the weight of billions of lives in his hands. "Then let's teach the council why humans are called humanity's fuck yeah. Send the order. Begin Operation Vengeance." Across human space, the war machine began to move, and the council, celebrating what they thought was a successful intimidation, had no idea what was coming for them. Captain Seojin stood on the bridge of the Revenant, watching his target through sensors that his enemy could not detect. The Drask supply convoy consisted of 12 massive cargo ships protected by 6 warships. They were carrying food, ammunition, and fuel to Council military bases. In 30 minutes, they would all be dead, and they would never know what killed them. "All systems show green, Captain," reported his tactical officer, a young woman named Hana. "Ghost protocols are active. They cannot see us." Seojin nodded. The Revenant was humanity's first true stealth warship, coated in materials that absorbed sensor sweeps and equipped with systems that masked their energy signature. To the Council's instruments, they were invisible, just empty space. "Target their engines first," Seojin ordered. "I want them crippled, not destroyed. Not yet." The Revenant fired. Missiles emerged from launch tubes, their own stealth systems making them invisible until impact. The first Drask warship exploded, its engine section vaporizing. Before the others could react, 5 more missiles found their targets. Within seconds, all 6 warships were drifting helplessly, their crews screaming into communicators, trying to understand what had hit them. The cargo ships tried to run, but they were slow and unarmed. The Revenant moved among them like a predator among prey, firing precisely, destroying engines and life support. Seojin watched the Council crews abandoning ship in escape pods, floating in space, waiting for rescue that would never come. "Captain, should we destroy the pods?" Hana asked. Seojin thought about Haven Station. He thought about Ambassador Hyunwoo's final transmission, about children being executed in the hydroponics bay. "No, let them float. Let them wait. Let them understand how it feels to be helpless." The Revenant vanished back into the darkness of space, leaving behind 18 crippled ships and hundreds of escape pods. Days later, when Council rescue ships finally arrived, they found most of the pods empty. The occupants had run out of air, water, and hope. The few survivors kept repeating the same phrase over and over. "We never saw them. They were ghosts." 3 months into the war, and the Council was learning fear. Their fleets patrolled everywhere, searching for human forces, but found nothing. Meanwhile, their ships kept disappearing. Supply lines were cut. Military bases went dark. Entire stations stopped responding to communications. When rescue ships arrived, they found everyone dead, killed by various failures in life support, power systems, or security protocols. Counselor Vrask, the Drask military commander, stood in his command center staring at a map of Council space. Red marks indicated destroyed or missing assets. There were hundreds of them, thousands. "Where are they?" he demanded. "Where are the human fleets? Why can't we find them?" His intelligence officer, a nervous Drask named Theron, stammered his response. "Sir, we believe they're using stealth technology far beyond what we thought possible. Our sensors cannot detect them. They strike and disappear. We're calling them ghost ships." "I don't believe in ghosts," Vrask roared. "They're just humans. Find them. Destroy them." "But how do you fight an enemy you cannot see? How do you defend against attacks that come from nowhere? The Council had millions of ships, but they were useless if they couldn't find the enemy. Meanwhile, humans were everywhere and nowhere, killing with precision and vanishing like smoke." Lieutenant Yuna sat in her fighter cockpit, reviewing her mission parameters. She was 23 years old and had been a civilian pilot before the war. Now she commanded a squadron of experimental strike fighters. And her job was simple: crash into things at incredible speeds. Her fighter was packed with explosives but had no life support system, no ejection seat, no safety features, because she wouldn't be flying it. The AI would. She programmed the targeting computer, set the course, and launched 12 fighters toward a Council orbital fortress. The AI pilots flew perfectly, accelerating to 90% of light speed. The Council's defense systems tried to stop them. They fired energy weapons and missiles, destroyed 3 of the fighters. But you cannot stop something moving that fast. 9 fighters hit the fortress at relativistic speeds. The kinetic energy was equivalent to nuclear weapons. The fortress, which had taken 20 years to build and could hold 50,000 people, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next, it was scattered atoms. Yuna watched from her command ship, felt nothing but satisfaction. Her parents had been visiting Haven Station when the Council attacked. They had been attending a cultural exchange program, trying to build bridges between species. They died for that belief. Now their daughter was destroying those bridges and everything else Council built. "Target destroyed," she reported. "Moving to next objective." Her squadron had 12 more targets today. They would reach them all. Minho worked in a dark room surrounded by screens, his fingers dancing across keyboards. He was part of the Cyber Warfare Division, and his job was to turn the Council's technology against them. He was very good at his job. His current target was a Drask colony world called Theron Prime, home to 3 billion people. The colony relied on automated systems to manage everything from water purification to traffic control to medical facilities. All of those systems were connected to a central network. All networks could be hacked. Minho breached their security in 40 minutes. It was embarrassingly easy. The Council had never faced cyber warfare on this scale. They had no defense against it. Within hours, he had complete control of Theron Prime's infrastructure. He did not immediately attack. First, he watched. He observed the daily routines of the colony. He saw civilians going to work, children going to school, families eating dinner. They looked so normal. They had no idea that death was inside their systems, waiting. Minho thought about his sister. Her name had been so mean, and she had loved plants more than anything. She grew flowers in her apartment, worked in the hydroponics bay, making things grow in the sterile environment of Haven Station. Council soldiers had shot her while she was watering tomatoes. She was 26 years old. He pressed a button. On Theron Prime, the water purification plants received new instructions. They began adding concentrated toxins to the water supply instead of removing them. The medical facility's automated systems started administering lethal doses of medications. Traffic control systems caused accidents at every major intersection. Life support in the underground sections vented atmosphere. Emergency systems that should have activated all failed at once. Within 6 hours, 50,000 people on Theron Prime were dead. The survivors would take days to figure out what happened and fix it. By then, Minho would have moved on to the next target. He felt nothing. No guilt, no satisfaction, just the cold calculation of revenge. "Target compromised," he reported to his superior. "Moving to next colony." His superior was a man named Junho, the same name as the fleet admiral but no relation. He reviewed Minho's work and nodded. "Good. We have 16 more targets this week. The Council is starting to realize their technology is their greatest weakness." The Council's paranoia grew with each attack. They stopped trusting their own systems, began manually checking everything, but that slowed their military response to a crawl. They were fighting an enemy that had studied them for 30 years, knew their weaknesses, and exploited them ruthlessly. Counselor Vrask received reports hourly, and each one was worse than the last. A military convoy ambushed by invisible ships. A space station where everyone died because life support mysteriously failed. A colony where the water became poison. A fleet commander assassinated in his own quarters despite being surrounded by guards. "How did they get on board?" Vrask demanded, staring at the report. "How did a human infiltrator reach Admiral Cross?" Theron pulled up the security footage. It showed Admiral Cross alone in his quarters. No one entered. No one left. Suddenly, the Admiral looked surprised, clutched his chest, and fell dead. Medical examination showed his heart had stopped, but there was no sign of disease or injury, just death. "We think they used some kind of poison that leaves no trace," Theron said. "Or perhaps a weapon we don't understand. Sir, we're losing this war. Not because humans have stronger ships or larger fleets. We're losing because we can't fight what we can't see." Vrask wanted to argue, but the evidence was overwhelming. In 3 months, the Council had lost 30% of its military capacity. They had not destroyed a single human warship. They had not won a single battle. Because there were no battles. Just ambushes, assassinations, and sabotage. The Council's member species began to fracture. The Drask blamed the Vral for starting the war. The Vral blamed the Luminar for poor intelligence. The Luminar blamed everyone else for incompetence. Trust between them collapsed. Their alliance, millions of years old, crumbled under the pressure of fighting an enemy they could not comprehend. Captain Seogen received his new orders and smiled. His next target was a Vral breeding world, where billions of their larvae were raised. The Council considered it an untouchable target, protected by massive fleets. But the Revenant had already slipped past those fleets undetected. They were in orbit, invisible and deadly. "Sir, are we really going to do this?" Hana asked. "There are no military targets down there, just civilians, children." Seogen pulled up the footage of Haven Station on his screen. "Did they spare our children, Lieutenant? Did they show mercy to our civilians?" He pointed at the screen, where Council soldiers were executing a human family. "This is war. Total war. We didn't start it, but we will finish it." The Revenant dropped biological weapons into the planet's atmosphere. Within days, the larvae would begin dying. Within weeks, the entire breeding cycle would collapse. The Viral species would face extinction if humanity continued these attacks. "Target engaged," Seogen reported. "Returning to base." The Council intercepted one human transmission during this period. It was a conversation between 2 soldiers discussing whether to take prisoners. One soldier asked, "Should we take prisoners?" The other responded, "Did they take prisoners at Haven Station?" The first soldier said, "No." The second soldier concluded. Then neither do we. That transmission was played in the council chambers. The assembled leaders listened in horror. They had expected a conventional war with battles and treaties and rules. Instead, humanity was fighting for extermination, total destruction, complete annihilation. Counselor Vrask finally understood what they had done. They had not attacked a peaceful species. They had attacked a species that knew how to wage total war better than any other in the galaxy. Humans had spent thousands of years perfecting genocide, developing weapons of mass destruction, learning how to kill efficiently and without mercy. We need to negotiate, Vrask said. We need to end this before they destroy us all. He sent messages to every human channel, begging for peace talks. The response was always the same. Silence. Then more attacks, more deaths, more colonies going dark, more ships disappearing. The Ghost War continued. Humanity was everywhere and nowhere, killing without being seen, destroying without being caught, teaching the Council the most important lesson. Never attack a species unless you understand what they become when they have nothing left to lose. And humans, after Haven Station, had nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. 1 year after Haven Station fell, High Counselor Thalmit made a desperate decision. The energy-based Luminar leader had watched the Council crumble under humanity's Ghost War. 30% of their military was gone. Dozens of colonies were damaged or destroyed. The member species were fighting among themselves. Something had to change or the Council would collapse without humanity ever facing them in open battle. We will strike at their heart, Thalmit announced to the assembled Council leaders. We will take our entire remaining fleet to Earth and destroy their homeworld. Without Earth, humanity will break. They will surrender or die. Counselor Vrask protested. That's exactly what they want. It's a trap. Then what do you suggest? Thalmit's energy form flared with anger. We hide and wait for them to kill us one by one? No. We gather every ship, every weapon, every resource, 10,000 warships. We overwhelm their defenses through sheer numbers. We end this war in one decisive battle. The Council voted. They had no choice. The Ghost War was destroying them slowly. Better to risk everything on one massive attack than die by inches. Fleet Admiral Junho watched the Council fleet assemble through long-range sensors. She stood in Earth's military command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the solar system. 10,000 enemy ships were coming. It was the largest armada in galactic history. They're really doing it, she said, feeling a mix of satisfaction and dread. They're bringing everything they have left. President Tae-hyun stood beside her. Can we stop them? Junho smiled. Sir, we've had a year to prepare. We've turned this entire solar system into a weapon. They're sailing straight into a kill zone. She began issuing orders. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden defenses activated. This was not Haven Station. This was Earth, and Earth would not fall. Dayun stood on Battle Station Vengeance, commanding 3,000 crew members. Her station was built into a hollowed-out asteroid, hidden among thousands of similar rocks in the belt. She had spent the last year training for this moment, dreaming of it every night. The Council was coming, and she would make them pay for Haven Station in blood. All weapons charged, reported her tactical officer. Enemy fleet entering engagement range in 30 minutes. Dayun pulled up the image of Haven Station on her screen, the one Ambassador Hyunwoo had broadcast. She looked at it every day, remembered every face, every death, every scream. Good. When they get close enough, we introduce them to hell. Captain Min Seok's frigate, the Indomitable, had survived the escape from Haven Station, but barely. Now fully repaired and upgraded, it joined Earth's defense fleet. Minseok was 60 years old, too old for combat by regulation, but he had refused retirement. He wanted to be here when the Council came. He wanted them to see the ship that survived their massacre still fighting. "All hands to battle stations," he ordered. "This is what we've been waiting for. Today we show them the price of shedding human blood." The Council fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 10,000 ships, their hulls gleaming with weapons and shields, advanced toward Earth in a formation that spanned millions of kilometers. High Counselor Thalmet broadcast a message to Earth. "Humanity, you have lost. Surrender now, and we will spare your civilians. Refuse, and we will burn your world. You have 1 hour to respond." The response came in 30 seconds. Fleet Admiral Junho's face appeared on every Council ship's screen. "You came here to finish what you started at Haven Station. Let me show you what you'll find instead. Welcome to Earth. Now die." The kill zone activated. The asteroid belt, which the Council fleet was passing through, suddenly came alive. Thousands of rocks that seemed natural opened up, revealing weapons, platforms, and missile batteries. They had been hidden there for years, waiting for this moment. The first wave of missiles caught the Council fleet completely by surprise. Hundreds of ships exploded before they could raise shields. The formation broke apart as capital ships tried to evade, but they were too big, too slow. More missiles came, then energy weapons, then kinetic projectiles moving at incredible speeds. "Evasive action!" Thalmet screamed. "Return fire! Destroy those platforms!" But for every platform destroyed, 3 more appeared. The asteroid belt was not a passive obstacle. It was a fortress, and humanity had been building it for 30 years. 10,000 weapon platforms opened fire simultaneously, turning space into a storm of death. Daeun Station fired its main guns, massive cannons that could crack a planet. Her target was a Council dreadnought, one of their largest ships. The first shot stripped away its shields. The second shot punched through its armor. The third shot hit its reactor. The dreadnought exploded, taking 2 nearby cruisers with it. "Target destroyed," Daeun reported calmly, already selecting the next target. "Firing again." The Council fleet pushed forward, losing ships with every second, but their sheer numbers allowed them to advance. They passed the asteroid belt, leaving behind thousands of destroyed platforms and 2,000 of their own wrecked ships. They thought the worst was over. Then Jupiter's moons opened up. 4 massive stations emerged from underground bases on Ganymede, Europa, Io, and Callisto. Each station was the size of a city and packed with weapons. They had been built in secret, disguised as mining operations. The Council had never known they existed. The stations fired and the Council fleet died. Energy beams that could boil oceans swept through their formation. Missiles that could track targets across solar systems hunted down every ship that tried to flee. The Council's advantage in numbers meant nothing. They were trapped in a kill zone designed by a species that understood warfare better than any other. Captain Minsook's frigate dove into the chaos, firing everything it had. The Indomitable was tiny compared to Council dreadnoughts, but it was fast and its crew knew these tactics. They targeted damaged ships, finishing them off, not giving the enemy any chance to repair or regroup. "Captain, their flagship is trying to break through toward Mars," his pilot shouted. Minsook saw High Counselor Thalmet's massive command ship pushing through the battlefield. Its shield still holding despite dozens of hits. It was trying to reach Mars, probably hoping to use the planet as a shield. "All power to engines," Minsook ordered. "Intercept course. Ram them if we have to." The Indomitable accelerated, pushing its engines beyond safe limits. Behind Minsook, his crew worked in perfect coordination. They had all lost someone at Haven Station. They all knew this might be their last battle. They did not care. Revenge was more important than survival. Mars' orbit revealed another surprise. The planet itself had been weaponized. Massive shield generators protected it, but they also powered orbital cannons. When the Council fleet came within range, Mars fired. The planet's weapons were so powerful they could be seen from Earth, bright lances of energy that crossed millions of kilometers in seconds. High Counselor Thalmet watched his fleet disintegrate around him. Of 10,000 ships, barely 4,000 remained functional. They had not even reached Earth yet. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid was a potential threat. "This is impossible," Thalmet said, his energy form flickering with despair. "How did they build all this? Where did they get the resources?" His intelligence officer provided the answer. "Sir, they've been preparing since they joined the Council. Every trade agreement, every technology exchange, every diplomatic visit. They were learning, stealing, building. We thought they were primitive. We thought they were weak. We were wrong." The Council fleet tried to retreat, but humanity had one final surprise. From behind the orbital platforms around Jupiter, a massive fleet emerged. These were not the ghost ships. These were regular warships, hundreds of them, and they had been waiting in ambush. The Council fleet was trapped between two forces with nowhere to run. Fleet Admiral Junho watched from Earth's command center as the battle reached its climax. "All forces, execute final phase. No survivors, no mercy." The human fleet attacked with suicidal bravery. Ships that ran out of ammunition rammed enemy vessels. Damaged craft set their reactors to overload and crashed into Council formations. Pilots whose ships were crippled manually guided them into targets. Every human fought as if death meant nothing, because after Haven Station, death was preferable to letting the Council escape. Dayun's battle station took a direct hit from a Council dreadnought. Her command center shook, lights flickering, alarms screaming. Half her crew died instantly. The station was breaking apart, atmosphere venting, systems failing. "Abandon station!" someone shouted. "No," Dayun said calmly. She locked down the command center, sealing herself inside. "Set collision course with that dreadnought. Maximum speed." "Captain, you'll die!" "So will they. That's all that matters." Battle Station Vengeance, powered by its dying reactor, accelerated toward the Council dreadnought. The enemy ship tried to evade, but it was too damaged, too slow. The station hit it at thousands of kilometers per hour. Both vessels exploded, creating a miniature sun that briefly lit up the entire battlefield. Captain Minsok's frigate finally reached High Counselor Thalmet's flagship. The Indomitable was barely functional, most of its weapons destroyed, engines failing. But it still had one weapon left: Minsok himself. "Crew, abandon ship," he ordered. "That's an order. Get to the escape pods." His crew refused. "We stay with you, Captain." Minsok smiled. He had commanded these people for 20 years. He had saved them from Haven Station. Now they would die together, completing the mission. "Then let's make it count. All remaining power to engines. Target their bridge for Haven Station." The Indomitable crashed into Thalmet's flagship like a missile. The impact breached the flagship's shields and armor. The frigate's reactor exploded, tearing through the larger ship's internal structure. High Counselor Thalmet died without even time to scream. The flagship broke apart, its pieces tumbling through space. Of 10,000 Council ships that entered the solar system, fewer than 200 escaped. They ran, jumping to faster-than-light speed the moment they cleared the battle zone. Behind them, they left 8,000 destroyed vessels and millions of dead crew members. Earth's defense had cost humanity dearly. Thousands of platforms destroyed, hundreds of ships lost, tens of thousands of soldiers dead. But Earth itself was untouched. The solar system held. The Council's last attempt to destroy humanity had failed catastrophically. Fleet Admiral Junho stood among the ruins of her command center, damaged by a lucky Council missile that had penetrated the defenses. She was wounded, but alive. Around her, crew members worked to restore systems and count the dead. President Taehyun's face appeared on the screen. "Admiral, The Council fleet is broken. They're retreating. Good, Junho said. Pursuit? Yes. We're not done with them yet. They came here to destroy us. Now we go there to finish what they started. Across the solar system, humanity's surviving forces regrouped. They had won the greatest battle in history. They had stopped the Council's last stand. Now came the final phase, the invasion of Council space, the end of the war. Daeun's body was never recovered from the wreckage of Battle Station Vengeance, but her name would be remembered forever, along with Captain Min Seok and thousands of others who gave everything to protect Earth. The Council learned too late that attacking Earth was not just a military mistake. It was suicide. Humanity would defend their homeworld with every weapon, every resource, every life. And when the defense succeeded, they would take that fury to the enemy's worlds. The war was entering its final stage, and the Council, having lost their military power, now faced something worse than death. They faced humanity's judgment. 18 months after Haven Station, President Tae-hyun stood on the surface of the Drask homeworld, looking at a city that had surrendered without firing a shot. 3 billion Drask lived on this planet, and they were now under human occupation. The Council's military was destroyed, their fleets scattered, their leadership dead. Humanity had won the war completely and totally, but winning created a new problem. What do you do with the defeated enemy? In the Military Command Center, Fleet Admiral Junho presented her plans to the civilian leadership. The holographic display showed the 3 Council homeworlds and their major colonies. Red markers indicated military targets. Yellow markers indicated population centers. We have the capacity to end this permanently, Junho said. We've developed weapons that can make their worlds uninhabitable. We can eliminate all 3 Council species within a month. No survivors, no future threats, complete extermination. The room fell silent. These were not evil people proposing genocide. They were tired people who had watched 12,000 civilians die, who had fought a brutal war, who wanted to make sure humanity never faced this threat again. Director Sora spoke up. The Council has billions of citizens. Most of them had nothing to do with Haven Station. They didn't vote for the attack. Many of them opposed it. Should they die for their leaders' crimes? They benefited from our deaths, someone argued. The Council wanted to keep us weak so they could maintain their dominance. Every Council citizen profited from that system. That's not the same as pulling the trigger, Sora countered. If we kill them all, we become exactly what we fought against. We become the monsters. Tae-hyun listened to the debate. He had not slept well in 18 months. Every night he saw Ambassador Hyunwoo's final transmission. Every morning he woke to casualty reports. The war had cost humanity dearly. 200,000 soldiers dead, 30 colonies damaged, entire generations traumatized by violence. A knock on the door interrupted the meeting. A young woman entered, someone Tae-hyun recognized. Minho, the civilian programmer turned cyber warfare specialist. He had killed more Council citizens than anyone else in the war, his hacks causing millions of deaths across their colonies. Sir, I request permission to speak, Minho said. Granted. What is it? Minho looked uncomfortable, his hands shaking slightly. I've been thinking about what I did during the war, the colonies I poisoned, the systems I sabotaged. I killed children, sir, families, people who never hurt anyone. I told myself it was revenge for my sister, but now the war is over and I can't sleep. I keep seeing their faces. He pulled up images on the display. Drask children playing in a park, moments before Minho's virus shut down their city's life support. Viral families eating dinner, unaware that their food distribution system had been compromised. Luminar energy beings celebrating a cultural festival, not knowing that in 6 hours their containment systems would fail. I want to advocate against extermination, Minho said. Not because they deserve mercy, but because we deserve to remain human. If we kill them all, we lose something we can never get back. We become the galaxy's exterminators. Is that what we want to be? Fleet Admiral Junho looked at him with hard eyes. Those children you showed me. Their species killed our children first. Why should we show mercy they never offered? Because we're better than them, Minho said quietly. Or we should be. Isn't that what this war was about? Proving that humanity deserves to survive? If we commit genocide, we prove the Council was right to fear us. The debate continued for hours. Military leaders wanted total destruction. Civilian leaders wanted justice, but not extermination. Scientists presented data on the biological weapons. Philosophers discussed the ethics of proportional response. Everyone had opinions, and all of them carried the weight of Haven Station's dead. Taehyun finally called for silence. I need to see them, the enemy, not through reports or screens. I need to look at them in person. He traveled to Adrask City, accompanied only by a small security detail. The streets were empty, citizens hiding in their homes, terrified of human soldiers. Taehyun walked to a public square where a small group of Drask had gathered, waiting to speak with him. Among them was a Drask male named Kyung-soo, holding 2 small children. He stepped forward, not begging or pleading, just standing there with quiet dignity. I know you're here to decide our fate, Kyung-soo said in heavily accented human language. I won't ask for mercy. Your species has every right to destroy us. But please look at my children. They're 5 years old. They don't understand politics or war. They just want to play and learn and grow up. They never voted to attack Haven Station. They never hurt anyone. Taehyun looked at the children. They were small and scared, clinging to their father. They reminded him of human children, different biology but the same innocence, the same vulnerability. My people killed your children, Taehyun said. We killed them in retaliation for what your leaders did. Does that make it right? No, Kyung-soo said. Nothing about this war was right. Both our species lost something we can never recover. The question is whether we lose even more. Whether we let hatred consume everything good we could become. Taehyun returned to the command center. He had made his decision. Not an easy one, not one that would please everyone, but the one he believed was right. We will not commit genocide, he announced. The Council species will survive, but they will pay for Haven Station in other ways. He outlined his plan. The Galactic Council would be dissolved permanently. All 3 species would be confined to their homeworlds for 100 years, with human forces monitoring them. All military technology would be destroyed. They would pay reparations to humanity for 1,000 years. Every Council child would learn about Haven Station, about what their leaders did, and why it was wrong. Most importantly, Taehyun continued, humanity will become the enforcers of galactic peace. We will protect other species from what happened to us. Any species that attempts genocide or aggressive war will face immediate human intervention. And if any Council species ever rebuilds their military or threatens another species, we will not hesitate. We will destroy them completely, Fleet Admiral Junho protested. Sir, you're leaving them alive. They could recover. They could threaten us again in the future. Then we deal with that future when it comes, Taehyun said. But I will not order the extermination of billions. I will not let Haven Station's massacre justify another massacre. We're better than that. We have to be. The decision was controversial. Many humans wanted total destruction. They had lost friends, family, entire communities. They wanted the Council to pay with extinction. But Taehyun's words resonated with enough people. Humanity had fought to survive, not to become monsters. The occupation continued. Human soldiers patrolled Council worlds, ensuring compliance. Council citizens lived under strict rules, unable to leave their planets, unable to develop weapons, unable to threaten anyone. It was a harsh peace, but it was peace. Minho volunteered for the reconstruction efforts. He spent his time helping Council worlds rebuild their civilian infrastructure, fixing the systems he had destroyed during the war. It didn't erase what he had done, but it helped him sleep slightly better. 10 years passed. A new generation grew up in the post-war galaxy. Council children learned about Haven Station in their schools. They saw the footage of their soldiers executing human civilians. They learned why humanity responded with such fury. Some felt shame, some felt resentment, but all of them understood the lesson. Never underestimate a peaceful species pushed to war. Human children learned about the war too, but with a different lesson. They learned that violence, even justified violence, carries a terrible price. They learned that winning a war doesn't erase the trauma of fighting it. They learned that mercy is sometimes stronger than revenge. Ambassador Ji-yeon became humanity's chief diplomat to the former Council species. She worked tirelessly to build something better than what existed before. Not friendship, not yet, but understanding, communication, a framework for coexistence that didn't rely on dominance or fear. She met with Kyung-soo, who had become a prominent voice for peace among the Drask. His children, now teenagers, studied human history and language. They wanted to understand the species that had spared them. "Why did you let us live?" Kyung-soo's daughter asked Ji-yeon during one meeting. Ji-yeon thought about how to answer. "Because President Tae-hyun believed that defining ourselves by what we destroy makes us less than we could be. We destroyed your military. We broke your power. But we chose not to destroy your future. That choice defines us more than the war did." "Some of my people say humans are weak for showing mercy," the girl said. "They say you should have finished what you started." "Then your people haven't learned anything," Ji-yeon replied. "Mercy isn't weakness. It takes more strength to spare an enemy than to destroy them. We could have made your species extinct. We chose not to. That choice haunts some of our leaders even now. But it's the right choice." Haven Station's memorial was completed 20 years after the massacre. It stood in neutral space, a massive structure that could be seen from light years away. Inside, holographic walls displayed every victim's name and face. Human visitors came to mourn. Council visitors came to remember their shame. The memorial's central chamber showed both sides of the war, human civilians dying at Haven Station, Council civilians dying in humanity's retaliation. The numbers were not equal. Humanity had killed far more in revenge than the Council killed in their initial attack. The memorial did not hide this fact. It displayed it clearly, forcing everyone to confront the cost of war. At the center of the memorial stood a simple message in every galactic language. Here died 12,000 humans who believed in peace. What followed is why you should never test whether someone is willing to die or kill for what they believe in. Remember this: never forget, never again. President Tae-hyun visited the memorial on its dedication day. He was an old man now, his hair white, his hands shaking from age. He stood before the wall displaying Ambassador Hyunwoo's final transmission, watching it play one more time. "Did we do the right thing?" someone asked him. A young reporter, too young to remember the war firsthand. "I don't know," Tae-hyun admitted. "I think about that question every day. We could have ended the threat permanently. We chose mercy instead. Maybe in 100 years the Council will rebuild and threaten us again. Maybe we'll regret sparing them. But I'd rather live with that uncertainty than live knowing we committed genocide. Some choices you make not because they're easy or safe, but because they're who you want to be." The galaxy was different now. Humanity held dominant military power, but used it to maintain peace rather than conquest. New species joining the galactic community learned quickly that humans were generous allies and terrifying enemies. None of them wanted to repeat the Council's mistake. 50 years after Haven Station, the three council species were finally allowed to leave their homeworlds. They emerged into a galaxy where humanity was the acknowledged leader, where human ships patrolled the trade routes, where human diplomats mediated disputes. Some council members resented this new order. Others accepted it as the price of their leader's crimes. Kyung-Soo's grandchildren became part of the first council delegation to Earth. They visited the planet their grandparents' species had tried to destroy. They saw the memorials to Earth's defenders. They met with human families who had lost loved ones in the war. One young Drask asked an elderly human woman, "Do you hate us for what our people did?" The woman, who had lost her daughter at Haven Station, thought for a long moment. "I did. For many years I hated every council species. I wanted you all dead. But hatred is exhausting, and it doesn't bring my daughter back. So no, I don't hate you. But I remember. We all remember, and we're watching. If your people ever threaten us again, we won't show mercy twice." That became humanity's reputation across the galaxy. A species capable of terrible violence but choosing restraint. A species that remembered their history and learned from it. A species that could destroy you completely but might choose to spare you instead, which somehow made them more frightening. The Council had learned their lesson too late. They learned that underestimating a peaceful species was fatal. They learned that humanity's diplomacy was sincere, but backed by the capacity for total war. They learned that some species, when pushed to the edge, don't break. They become something worse. Haven Station's massacre had signed the Council's annihilation, but humanity chose to stop short of complete destruction. That choice defined the post-war galaxy more than any battle. It proved that humans could be better than their worst impulses, that they could choose mercy over revenge. But the choice also came with a warning, repeated by every human leader to every council representative. We spared you once. We chose mercy over extermination. Never give us a reason to make that choice again, because next time we won't hesitate. You've seen what humanity becomes when threatened. Never become our enemy again. The galaxy remembered Haven Station. Both species remembered. And in that memory, in that terrible lesson written in blood and mercy, a new kind of peace was born. Not the peace of equals, but the peace of a predator that chooses not to kill. A peace maintained by the memory of what happens when you wake the sleeping monster. Humanity had proven it could be both savior and destroyer. The galaxy learned to respect both sides of human nature. And Haven Station stood as an eternal reminder of the price of misjudging a species that fought for thousands of years to survive and would fight thousands more to remain free.